Hey there, everybody. Eric Chessen, founder of Autism Fitness, leading the movement for movement, and bringing you another edition of Autism Fitness Tuesday training. If you've been following my videos, if you're a subscriber, number one, thank you very much. And number two, you'll notice that this is not my typical background. Traveling a little bit, but still want to get you the information that allows you to deliver the best possible fitness and adapted PE programs for the autism and neurodivergent individuals that you work with on a daily or weekly basis. So, in this edition of Autism Fitness Tuesday training, what I wanted to talk about is the interaction between cognitive and physical functioning. Now, on a wider or broader scale, we all know somehow that cognitive functioning is going to play a role in physical functioning, and physical functioning is going to play a role in cognitive functioning. How many times have you read that fitness programs can enhance cognitive functioning for not only neurotypical individuals, but neurodivergent individuals as well? So there is a very high-level interplay between cognitive processing and being physically active. We know that being physically active can also enhance certain areas of cognitive functioning, and this is great. But what I wanted to talk about was how cognitive functioning and physical functioning interact in reality, or observable reality, because neurological reality is a reality as well, but how they interact and how we can utilize them as coaches and really optimize the session for each individual. So when we consider things from the PAC profile perspective, that of course is the standard operating procedure for autism fitness programming. It's the physical, the adaptive, and the cognitive. What we're looking at physically is how well the athlete can perform the exercise. And from the cognitive perspective, we're looking at, does the athlete understand the directions? What does their motor planning look like? What is their kinesthetic awareness? What is their spatial awareness as well? And all of these things may not be evident. They may not be completely clear in the first session or the second session. I was just observing a few sessions yesterday, and one of the things that is always so crucial to remember is that it may take an athlete several sessions, anywhere between 1 and 5. 1 is not actually several, so let's say 2 and 5, to acclimate to the environment. So they may be dysregulated, and we may not really see what their true physical capabilities are, and also their true cognitive capabilities as it relates back to following directions and being able to follow sequencing, especially if they're anxious. So these are things that we want to take into consideration. But back to cognitive functioning. In Autism Fitness, we divide cognitive functioning into two different main areas. Area number one is going to be neurological, and the way we're looking at that or considering that in our programs is going to be memory and recall, how well the individual communicates, of course their receptive language as well, which is going to be, or their receptive processing, which is going to be different than their productive communication. So you can have an athlete who has limited verbal skills but understands every last word that you say. So one does not automatically mean the other. And then when we get into physical functioning, of course, we're talking about the exercises themselves, whether the athlete is performing them to standard, if they need a modification or a simplified version, or if we can progress it depending on the athlete's skills once they meet standard. And again, that's something that we adhere to in autism fitness programming so that the programming can be as safe and effective as possible. Where the two coincide or overlap is with cognitive functioning. The better the athlete understands the expectation for performing that exercise, the better they're going to be able to either motor imitate or independently perform that exercise. It doesn't mean that if they understand what the expectation is, they're going to be able to perform the exercise perfectly. That's where we get into the neuromuscular. If we have an athlete who has some movement deficits, whether it's strength, whether it's motor control, these are again typical, then we're not going to see perfect movement even if the athlete understands what the coach is coaching them or asking them to do. This is a really important point because I've seen this, I don't know if you have, where a coach or instructor continues to, let's be honest here, berate or browbeat an individual. It doesn't even have to be a fitness situation. It says, oh no, do it better. No, you know how to do that. Come on, do it this way. Even if the athlete understands, appreciates, and is motivated to perform that exercise or that task, if they do not yet have the underlying skills, it's going to be very difficult, if not impossible, at least in the moment, for that athlete to complete that exercise. All right? So we want to consider that even if the athlete understands and is capable of processing the information, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be able to perform the exercise to standard or mastery level. Most people cannot deadlift 400 pounds. So even if we ask a new athlete or a new client or new trainee or however we're labeling this person, well, you know how to deadlift, so here, deadlift 400 pounds. They can't. They don't have the physiological capability. So we have to take into account both the cognitive processing, does the athlete understand the expectation, and their physical functioning. Can they actually do the thing to a mastery level that we are asking them to do right now? So, where these two interact and where we can utilize them effectively in our coaching and in our programming. When we are consistent, that word comes up a lot in autism fitness programming. When we are consistent with how we label, demonstrate, do, and cue, meaning the athlete does the exercise and we cue it, that is a huge part of autism fitness programming. We label, demonstrate, do, and cue. I'll come back to that. And then we see what the athlete is capable of doing in this session, in the moment. Then we can structure our coaching and our programming around how the athlete is processing the information and then what they are doing. All right? And this again is a several session process sometimes to figure out that athlete's ability to process the information and then act on it. All right? So with cognitive processing, the way that we can optimize our coaching is by learning how best to support that athlete so they understand the expectations and being consistent with our directions, with our cues, with the order of things so that we create the most hospitable and least anxiety-provoking environment possible. If, here's the contingency for us, if the athlete understands the expectation, like how to do this squat or how to do this overhead press or how to do this band row, as best as they possibly can, they are likely to produce as good performance, provided they are sufficiently motivated, as possible. All right? But if the athlete doesn't understand what to do, and if there's too much chaos, and if there are too many general instructions, and I'll get to that, if there are too many general instructions, it can be overwhelming. By general instructions, when we say something that is vague, like, oh, do this, or go here, or stay here, what does here mean? These are way too general for most of our athletes. So specificity is going to reign supreme here, regardless of who you're working with. By the way, this works with neurotypical athletes, with general fitness population. The more clarity we can have in our directions. Now, clarity is not the same as lengthiness. Our Short, concise directions or cues are going to lead to better performance. So where we have that interaction between cognitive functioning and physical functioning is clarity is going to equal better performance. It may not equal mastery performance because the athlete simply doesn't have that skill set yet. It's new to them, or they have difficulty from a physiological perspective. But if we are concise with our directions, if we are guiding the athlete in the way that they need to be supported, both with visual spatial guidance and as little physical guidance, but whatever as much as is necessary. So, for example, with band rows, we put our hand inside the band to help guide the athlete. Very, very limited physical prompts because we want the athlete to be as independent as possible. This is where taking into account what we know about each athlete's ability to process information and then perform the exercise based on their ability to understand what we're asking them to do or how they've done the exercise before is going to lead to continued progress in that exercise. So even though we're looking at cognitive processing oftentimes as separate from physical processing, the two are interwoven. And the way that we optimize our program for both our own coaching and definitely for the athlete's experience and their continued progress is by utilizing language and utilizing direction and utilizing environmental variables that are going to best support that particular athlete in that particular moment and being consistent around them. So I hope that has been helpful in illustrating the crossover in that Venn diagram between physical functioning and adaptive functioning. So let me know how this has helped or how this has made you consider or reconsider your programming for the autism and neurodivergent population. If it's something that has lit a light bulb in your mind, definitely comment below. And of course, as always, if there's a topic about autism fitness, about integrating fitness programs for the neurodivergent population, would love to know what you want to know. Put that in the comments below. That rhymed, didn't mean to, that's all right. I'm Autism Fitness founder Eric Chessen, leading the movement for movement. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and if you're interested in becoming an Autism Fitness Certified Pro, you can do that anywhere in the world. Start your coursework today and then meet me for your live, virtual, full-day practical, again, anywhere in the world. Thank you very much for watching, and that's about that.